In the opening scene of the film, the narrator introduces us to the profound concept that a mother's innate instinct to protect her children can metamorphose her into a resolute guardian, prepared to make any sacrifice for their welfare. She possesses the capacity for both magnificence and ferocity, and if anyone were to threaten her family, the depths of her potential actions remain unfathomable. Our story commences with Rose, a woman undaunted by the rain as she approaches her home. With deliberate caution, she secures the door to the adjoining building with an array of locks, underscoring the clandestine nature of her activities. Inside the dining room of her home, Rose's daughter Maisy is completely absorbed in adorning a cake. It soon becomes evident that Maisy's efforts are intended for a special someone, and we swiftly discern that the recipient is none other than her father, a man bound to a wheelchair. We discover that the father, Pa, is immobilized, robbed of speech and movement, necessitating Rose's daily administration of his medication. As Maisy extinguishes the candle atop the cake, an air of celebration fills the room. She joyfully bestows her father with his presence and eagerly joins him for a photograph. Amid this cheerful atmosphere, Maisy dutifully tends to Pa's medical needs and feeds him a slice of cake, underscoring the profound connection they share. Suddenly, a frantic stranger disrupts their tranquility, pounding on their door and pleading for assistance. He recounts a forest accident that has left his brother gravely injured and bleeding. Rose, though hesitant, is moved by the desperate plea and reluctantly unlocks the door to welcome them inside. She assesses the injured man's wounds and advises his brother to transport him to a hospital. However, the brother, haunted by the fierce storm outside, insists on seeking aid from Rose. The concerned brother paces the floor with anxiety, while Maisy, despite her apprehension, offers her help. With rain pouring relentlessly outside, Rose tends to the injured man, skillfully stitching up his wounds on the dining table. In the course of their conversation, the brother introduces himself as Maddie, and Rose and Maisy reciprocate by sharing their names. As Rose tends to Maddie's injuries, she offers comforting reassurances about his brother's well-being. Maddie retreats to the bathroom to cleanse the blood from his body and discreetly conceals his knife in his sock. Returning to the dining room, Maddie finds his brother resting comfortably on the couch. Overflowing with gratitude for Rose's assistance, he expresses his heartfelt thanks. Rose's maternal instincts take over as she warmly invites Maddie to savor the soup that Maisy has prepared, initiating a series of inquiries about Maddie's journey and background. They learn that Maddie hails from London, and he begins to explain that they are on their way to a location where Jack's friend is waiting with a boat. However, Maddie appears somewhat hesitant to disclose the specific place or their true purpose until Jack, who has regained consciousness, interjects and reveals they are going fishing. In the course of their conversation, Jack expresses the need to inform the individuals awaiting their arrival that they are safe. Rose, however, informs him that there is no signal in the area and they lack a phone. She mentions the presence of an old phone booth on the path to the village, but states they can't venture there until the following morning due to the stormy weather. Upon hearing this, Jack requests to use the restroom, and Maddie directs him there. However, inside the restroom, Jack is taken aback when he discovers that they have brought the wrong bag. We quickly discover that the two brothers have been involved in illicit activities and absconded with a substantial sum of money. Since the money bag remains in their crashed car, they urgently need to devise a plan to retrieve it. In light of this, Jack requests Rose's assistance by borrowing her car, while Maddie puts on an act, feigning a tantrum. Jack claims that Maddie has left his belongings in the car and insists on getting them back. When Rose observes Maddie's persistent shouting, she offers a compromise. She'll allow Jack to go to the crashed car under one condition. Maddie must wait inside a locked room. Rose is cautious, not willing to leave her daughter with a stranger in the house. After Jack and Rose depart, moments later, Maisy takes the key and strikes up a conversation with Maddie. It's the first time she's ever conversed with anyone other than her mother. After a pleasant exchange, Maisy unlocks the door, and when she escorts Maddie outside, he requests her assistance in going upstairs. Upstairs, Maddie encounters a locked room, and Maisy informs him that it's her mother's workshop, a place off limits to anyone else. The scene transitions to Jack and Rose engaged in conversation, during which Rose opens up about her husband's tragic accident and the heart-wrenching loss of her son. Upon reaching the accident site, Jack requests that Rose wait for him while he retrieves his money bag. It's at this moment that Rose unintentionally glimpses a lifeless man inside the wrecked vehicle. Tension escalates as Jack draws his gun, compelling Rose to escort him to the nearby phone booth so he can communicate with his contact. Rose complies with his demand, and as they reach the phone booth, Jack issues a stern warning for her to remain silent about what she has witnessed. He admits to the mother that he's committed unspeakable acts she can't even fathom, but she retorts that Jack has no comprehension of the trials she has endured. Back at home, Maisy warmly invites Maddie into her room, where she proudly showcases her cherished possessions, including a map that allows her to explore the world without ever leaving the house. Through their conversation, we learn that Jack is engaged in a conversation with his boss regarding the delivery of the money bag. The boss, growing impatient, insists on personally meeting Jack to retrieve the bag. It's during this exchange that we discover the deceased man inside the crashed car is the boss's son. However, Jack deceives the boss, assuring him that his son is perfectly fine. Meanwhile, Rose discreetly attempts to secure a tool for self-defense, but she's caught off guard as Jack suddenly emerges from behind. He sternly warns her about the ruthlessness of the boss if he discovers the truth about his son's fate. However, Rose defiantly responds with, "Back to Maddie and Maisy." Their connection deepens, but suddenly they hear a news report on the radio. It reveals a search for 3 men involved in an armed robbery in East London. Upon hearing his and his brother's names broadcasted on the radio, Maddie rushes to silence the radio and struggles to convey to Maisy that it was not intentional, but rather an unfortunate accident. Despite her fears, Maisy comprehends the situation and urges Maddie to return to his room before her mother's arrival. The climax unfurls as Rose and Jack return home, with Jack demanding Maisy to release Maddie from the locked room. The family is forcibly separated and held at gunpoint, their lives hanging in precarious balance. Suddenly, Jack spots the headlights of an approaching vehicle and goes to investigate. It turns out to be a police officer. Instructing Maddie and Maisy to hide in the locked room, Jack gives Rose strict directives on how to interact with the police without arousing suspicion. A twist of fate leads to the police officer entering the house to check on the occupants and inform Rose about an ongoing manhunt. During this time, Rose strives to maintain a facade of normalcy, but her husband's inquisitive gaze raises the officer's suspicions. The cop also notices a photo of Pa and Maisy, which appears to have been cropped, and then hears Pa's feeble call for help. As the officer becomes increasingly suspicious of Rose, she attributes Pa's behavior to possible medication delays. As he prepares to depart, the cop abruptly questions the presence of a picture of a girl who went missing long ago, identified as Maisy, in her home. He mentions that the girl's family also vanished without a trace. However, an unexpected twist unfolds. Jack suddenly emerges from the shadows and launches a surprise attack on the police officer. Chaos erupts as the room becomes a battleground, with gunfire and intense struggles filling the air. Maddie, inside the locked room, hears the tumultuous commotion, while Maisy seizes the opportunity to defend herself by striking Jack with a vase. In the end, the police officer manages to overpower Jack, but he is taken aback when he sees Maisy. In a shocking turn of events, Rose emerges and fatally shoots the policeman. Maisy finds herself torn and bewildered by the unfolding mayhem, while Rose swiftly administers medication to Pa after Maisy claims her father spoke. Afterward, Rose meticulously cleans up the chaotic scene, imprisoning Jack and Maddie in the basement. With Maisy unwittingly assisting, the family endeavors to cover their tracks by transporting the deceased officer to the location of Jack's car accident. Rose stages a fabricated scene to make it appear as though the policeman perished in a firefight with Jack's alleged gang. She also reassures Maisy that the police cannot be trusted, emphasizing that there are no truly good people, which is why she must protect Maisy from them. Locked in the basement, Jack struggles relentlessly to free himself from his restraints. Eventually, both Jack and Maddie manage to break free from their cuffs and attempt to make their escape from the basement. They exit through another door that leads outside the house. However, Jack is reluctant to leave because the bag of money remains inside the house, a possession of significant importance to him. Their daring escape gives rise to a dilemma. Maddie desires to leave the perilous house behind, but Jack is determined to retrieve the money bag, which holds great significance to him. This divergence of intentions sparks an intense confrontation between the siblings, during which we come to understand that Maddie grapples with a mental condition that frequently triggers fits of rage and hallucinations. Jack discloses to Maddie that they lost their mother due to his mental condition, instructing Maddie to wait for him in the barn. Fueled by his insatiable greed, Jack ascends toward Rose's enigmatic workshop and stealthily enters through a window. Inside the room, he stumbles upon a concealed area containing a woman lying there, surrounded by multiple CCTV screens. What he discovers next is utterly bewildering. The lady has been subjected to amputation, unveiling Rose's monstrous true nature. As Jack sifts through the disturbing evidence, he uncovers the shocking truth. Rose is not Maisy's biological mother. A plethora of newspaper articles detail the mysterious disappearances of Maisy's original family. Moreover, the woman lying there is none other than Maisy's real mother and Pa's wife. Maisy, also known as Jenny, her real name, has no recollection of her true family, as she was too young when they vanished. When Jack attempts to rescue her, the woman implores Jack to end her suffering instead. Jack grapples with the weight of the woman's pleas for relief, torn by his moral dilemma. However, he hesitates to take any immediate action. Meanwhile, Rose is outside the house and senses that something is awry when she notices her sheep in disarray. It dawns on her that the two brothers have managed to escape. Maddie, on the other hand, seeks refuge in the barn but is soon confronted by Rose, who brandishes a gun. Rose decides not to harm the boy, remarking that Maddie reminds her of her late son. She offers to take care of him, a gesture Maddie accepts, embracing Rose as his new mother. In the meantime, Jack locates another entrance into the house, retrieves the money, and then restrains Maisy from behind. Desperately, he endeavors to persuade her of the truth about Rose. As Rose approaches the house, Jack guides Maisy into a room, where he discloses to her that her true identity is Jenny. He explains that Rose is not her real mother. Her genuine mother was involved in a car accident that took the lives of her husband and son. Rose subsequently took Maisy and her father to replace her own lost family as an act of vengeance. Jack presents Maisy with the photos and a necklace he acquired from Rose's workshop, triggering a flood of memories in Maisy's mind. Amidst the chaotic situation, Jack's boss stumbles upon the wreckage of a car, realizing he's closing in on Jack. Jack, strategizing his escape, instructs Maisy to guide her father towards a nearby truck while he goes to find Maddie. However, when Jack returns to the barn, he discovers that Maddie is no longer there, sparking concern. Jack is unwilling to leave without him, so he re-enters the house, eventually encountering Maddie at the top of the stairs. Maddie, however, insists that Jack should leave, as he has chosen to stay with his new mother, Rose. Suddenly, Rose takes a shot at a distracted Jack, narrowly grazing his neck. Jack finds refuge in a corner, while Rose attempts to manipulate Maddie by claiming that Jack doesn't care about him. In a tense confrontation, Jack reveals that he has informed Maisy about Rose's sinister deeds in her workshop. Enraged, Rose tries to coerce Jack into surrendering, but he strikes her across the face and seizes her fallen gun. Jack's attempt to end Rose's reign is thwarted when Maddie intervenes, pushing Jack to the ground and delivering a series of punches. As Maddie helps Rose to her feet, Maisy enters the house and offers assistance to Jack, and together they make their way to a waiting car. Simultaneously, Jack's boss, who has spotted the car wreckage, draws nearer to the scene, heightening the tension. Jack and Maisy make their escape while Rose, in pursuit, brandishes a gun. Desperately seeking safety, they find refuge in the barn, where Rose attempts to persuade Maisy that she's the one who raised and cared for her. Suddenly, a car arrives at the compound, announced by Maddie as Mac. Jack entrusts Maisy with the car key, instructing her to drive away with her father, while he heads in the opposite direction to meet with Mac. As tensions rise, Mac confronts Jack, demanding both the money and information regarding his missing son. Learning of his son's demise, Mac forcefully drags Jack out of hiding and confronts Rose about his desperate need for the money, vowing to exact revenge on both brothers for causing his son's death. Rose, undeterred, tells Mac that he can kill Jack if he wishes, expressing her lack of interest in the money. However, she firmly insists that he won't harm Maddie. Amidst this confrontation, Jack stabs Mac in the leg, provoking Rose to fatally shoot Mac in the head, as Maddie intervenes to prevent Mac's associate from harming Rose. Despite his best efforts, the attacker manages to overpower both Maddie and Rose, attempting to end Rose's life once again. And then a courageous act unfolds. Maisy, summoning all her courage, strikes the attacker, allowing her to escape with her father. She leaves Rose, Jack, and Maddie unconscious. As the film nears its conclusion, Maisy finds solace wrapped in a blanket, comforted by a police officer who assures her that her father will recover and promises to capture the escaped Rose. In the meantime, Rose and her new son, Maddie, are depicted dining together in their secluded new residence. Rose gazes at the CCTV screens, but behind one of them is a chilling sight. Jack, in a disturbingly familiar position, with his limbs amputated, mirroring the fate of Maisy's real mother.